Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. We're going to break down Alabama and Clemson Part 2. You're going to get Preston join with me, the Sports Cheetah, in my view on this one. Preston is, we talked in the first video on this one that the line in this game opened up Alabama 7 and a total of 54.5. We saw that little bit of money come into the Clemson side, bring it down to 6.5. But where we saw the biggest move on this is they jumped on the under in this one. Does that surprise you, considering last year these two teams played and they scored 45-40, 85 points in the game?
No, it doesn't really surprise me, I think, because most people, and you're seeing it slightly with the side as well, not as big of an overreaction, but they remember what they've seen lately. You had a game where Clemson shut out Ohio State, where I think most people rate Ohio State as a really good offense. I kind of have been down on them throughout the year because they've had issues with Barrett not being able to throw downfield. But when they win 31-0, I mean, everyone's like, wow, this Clemson defense is awesome. And then on top of it, Washington did a really good job defensively against Alabama. And you have some of that, I think, carrying over, and the fact that Lane Kiffin's no longer there now, although he called a really weird game, I thought, against Washington. So I think that might be a plus. But when you give teams a month to prep for these other games, the defenses are going to be really good. And so I think it was more so a reaction to this total for sure, coming down to some places 50.5 at this point.
Well, building off of what you just said, giving teams a month to prepare, that was for last week.
Right.
Now you've got a week to prepare this week, but does it help that these two faced one another last year in preparation?
I think a lot of people refer to that as the Alabama defense wants to get revenge for what happened last year because Clemson did score 40 on them. The final for that game, for people that don't know, was 45-40. So there are 85 points in that game, which is why Marco brought up, why is it coming under? Yeah. I think it is a play on the over, if anything, at this point, mostly just because of the X's and O's and the matchup. And, we've said it a lot this year, whether on videos or just in other shows we've done. Watson's in the way he can be dynamic, not only on the ground as a quarterback, but he can actually make plays through the air. That's how you beat Alabama. There are two games this year Alabama gave up a bunch of points. That was against Ole Miss, where they early on were actually trailing. And the other one's kind of surprising. It was against Arkansas. I think Arkansas scored over 30. They got outscored plenty, so they ended up losing anyways. But that's a team that generally likes to establish the run, a balanced attack. They just decided we're going to give up. We know that Alabama defends the run as better, as well as anybody, and they threw for over 400 yards. And it's not like Arkansas has a great, prolific passing attack. Now you have Clemson and Watson with their receivers on the outside, and Mike Williams especially. They're going to be able to score, and they have confidence. They did it last year, and I think Alabama's offense is kind of getting underrated now to this point because of what happened against Washington, a really, really good Washington defense where Kiffin was calling plays that were play-action passes downfield against three defensive backs that are going to be in the NFL next year. Didn't make any sense. I think Alabama, they're playing a softer defense than Washington. Still remember Clemson gave up 42 to Pitt, 36 to Louisville, or similar number against, I think it was Florida State too. This is a team that can give up points on their end. So I really do think 51 and under is a play to make on the over, and so I like points. I think there's been too much of an adjustment there.
All right. I'm going to look at the side in this one, and I'm going to look at Alabama. And right now, as Brian mentioned in the last video, that the stock right now is as high on Clemson as it's been. And I'm the guy that always says, no team is ever as good as their best game, and that was the absolute perfect game that Clemson played last year. And normally, Preston, I'm a guy that use a lot of situational stuff, and when you get a chance for a revenge game, a mulligan, so to speak, to have a redo for last year, it's a situation that I usually would be on Clemson. But I'm looking at this game, and last year's game, and we were all, at a bar having fun watching the game, it was like three different games to me when I watched it. It was a 14-14 game at the half. So it wasn't that big high-scoring game that it ended up being, that it got into the second half. But Clemson dominated at the beginning. And then Alabama got the lead, and if you remember, they were actually covering. They didn't deserve to be covering, but they were covering late in that game, and then Clemson got the late backdoor. And I think Alabama this year, when you compare the two teams, Alabama's defense this year is way better than it was last year, in my opinion. They're quicker. The one thing that I feel that they've made an improvement on that was always their Achilles heel was a quarterback that was mobile, that dual threat quarterback. That always gave them problems. And they did face some of those type of quarterbacks this year, and they were able to handle those guys. And I know you keep looking at all of these defensive games with Alabama, you know, getting the defensive touchdown. How many times can they keep doing that? I watch it and I shake my head, you know, because that was the difference in the Washington game. Washington was, was in that game. That one play turned the whole game around when they get that interception and, you know, make a close game not close, and then Alabama can, you know, pin their ears and come back at you. I like Clemson. I like Deshaun Watson. He's one of my favorite players in college football. I enjoyed watching him, but I just don't think they get it done here. I like him as long as this thing is under the touchdown. And I think this is one of those lines that we're going to see ping pong back and forth all week. As soon as it hits 7, all of the Clemson guys are going to come run in and grab the 7s, and then the Alabama guys will pick off the 6.5s whenever they go back down. So if you like Clemson, if you don't get 7, you're not doing your work. And if you like Alabama and you're not laying under 7, you should really quit betting, to be honest about it. So that's the way I'm looking at it. Anything you want to add before we close it out?
No, I mean, I agree. I mentioned at the beginning, and I was trying to cut it short, but I think there was an overreaction on the side, too. The hypothetical lines were Clemson 9.5 to 11.5 like 2 weeks ago before the semifinal games. Even though Ohio State, you know, close favorites against Clemson, maybe incorrectly, but you know, they were 7.5 to 9.5 hypothetical lines against Alabama. So now you're getting under a touchdown. You know, my numbers are 7.5, so there is a little value there on Alabama. I haven't bet it yet, but I think, yeah, it's Alabama and the over right now at the current numbers.
And to go back to the Ohio State real quick, and we'll close it out. That line opened Ohio State 3.5 against Clemson, but the closing number on that came all the way down. Some places got it down, I think, as low as 1, and I thought I saw a couple picks somewhere, but it was definitely Clemson money come pouring in. So, and we always say the closing number is what the right number should be. The market adjusts to it. So there you go, guys. You've got Preston saying take a look at the over in this one. I've got Alabama, and you heard the guys in the first video. They were on opposite sides, so you got enough information. Make your own decision on a Monday with what you got here. Enjoy the game. We're going to be back with more here at wagertalk.com. And don't forget, $10 off this weekend. Use coupon code Alabama10. Save $10 on any daily package or that weekend all access for $69. Back with more here at Wager Talk.